Let me tell the non-evangelical version of the story known as the woman caught in adultery. The woman was terrified. She'd been having sex with religious leaders ever since her husband had divorced her and left her destitute. She was pretty and she gave them secrecy, and the religious leaders knew no one could ever find out that they were having sex with her. But this time was different. They had dragged her out of the house afterward and were taking her somewhere public. She hadn't even really been able to cover up, and so she was so embarrassed by the vulnerability of the moment. They brought her to a public square. She didn't know what to do. They were screaming things about stoning her and the law. She knew nobody had been stoned for adultery in hundreds of years, but now these religious guys, many of whom she had slept with in the past, were now talking about the law allowing them to kill her by throwing rocks at her. They brought her in front of this guy, Jesus. She had heard about him. She knew he was different, but she also knew what religious leaders were like, and she figured he would be the next to want to have sex with her. They asked Jesus, should they stone her? She trembled, terrified. But strangely, he didn't say anything at all. They asked Jesus again, and he still didn't say anything. The woman was a little bit befuddled, and as she continued to try to cover herself up in front of this huge crowd. This Jesus guy didn't say anything to the religious leaders. He just started writing in the ground and the dirt. She had never seen anything like it. They persisted. And finally, they began to realize what this Jesus guy was writing in the dirt was pointing out their sin in the situation, not hers. The older guys recognized it pretty quickly and they took off. The woman knew many of them from past sexual episodes. It took a little longer for the younger guys to figure out, but they finally did, and soon all of the religious guys were gone and she was left with this guy Jesus and the crowd looking on. Again, she tried to make sure she was covered up and modest in front of this teacher. She wondered what he would say, where he would take her to use her as was his right in the culture. Instead, he looked at her and said, "Where are your condemners?" She wasn't quite sure if this was a trick question or not. She looked around, seeing all her sexual partners / religious guys gone. She said, "They're gone." Jesus said, "Yeah, the condemners are gone, and neither do I condemn you." She wasn't sure what to say. She just stood there frozen. He said, "Tell you what, I'm going to create a way that you don't have to live in this system anymore. Go and be free of sin forevermore." And that's the story of the woman caught in adultery, not the condemning story evangelicals tell.